I love you.
Hey, all you ladies, gents, and gentle folk out there. You're going to probably groan when I say this because I say it all the time. But it's true today. We really do have a very special episode for you.
Yeah.
I am the Green Traveler.
And I am the Faceless Leon. Hey, I've been noticing the last couple of times, you usually come up with something new each time. And the last couple of times, it's always been different. Last couple times you just have been just very standard, hey, all you people.
Yes.
And I don't know, you like that? You like what you're doing? I think it's good.
It's more out of laziness.
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah, my creativity ebbs and flows, and right now most of my creativity is going into a novel I'm writing.
Oh, okay, sure. Oh, I didn't mean to call you out. I was just
no, you're all right.
Is a conscious change or not?
No, yeah, it's really just laziness. Now that usually I would think of these on my walk right before we record.
I see.
And now I'm more thinking on my novel when I'm walking instead of anything else.
Hey, though, whatever. I totally get that. You gotta
priorities.
You gotta find time to think when you can. I totally get that.
You gotta find time to meditate too.
Yeah.
Take a moment to just sit and breathe, everybody.
Yeah. Because
today, this is a bad one. Today, we're talking A Quiet Place Part 2, where breathing is, it could kill you if you're very loud about it. If you're very loud about it, if you're doing really deep breaths and doing the loud exhales. So this is a stay or go. We like to have these stay or goes where we watch 2 movies and tell you which one we think you should spend your time doing. And today is a special episode because for the first time in 14 months, I returned to the theaters, everybody.
Yay!
Oh.
And I got
it was so lovely. It was lovely though. When I think of the theaters, for me it's always the surround sound and the giant screen. I love that, and it's all dark. You feel fully immersed in this event. But there's also the issue of the loud people, the crunching on snacks, the rustling drinks, or sometimes you hear people just being really loud and vocal, or drinking. We may have gone to the theaters once or twice with a bottle.
Don't tell my parents that.
It was interesting, especially when our one friend dropped a bottle and it just rolled all the way down to the front.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. And then the people in front of us were like, "Oh, they're drinking. That makes sense."
That makes sense. And I was so mad, man. I did not want to bring that in there. I feel bad, honestly, for how mad I was about it. And because I was like, you know what? I didn't want that to enjoy this prequel to The Wizard of Oz that didn't need to happen.
Oh, right. That's right. It was The Great and Powerful Oz, wasn't it, with James Franco?
It was so bad. And I should have just let them enjoy it the way they wanted to enjoy it, so that at least there was some enjoyment out of this movie, because I just hated that movie. That movie was bad.
Yeah.
Secret
sirens. Yep. I was going to say there's sirens. Sirens going off.
Oh, Zelda.
Yeah, she's a howler when she hears the sirens.
Oh, boy.
Needless to say, I hate the sound now. It's become terrible for me. But yeah, I finally returned to the movie theaters, and it was hilarious. They required a mask, even if you were vaccinated. They required a mask outside of the theaters, but once you were in the theater, if you had a concession or whatever, you didn't have to wear it. It's silly because nobody's gonna wear it once they're inside the theater because they'll just buy popcorn and just be like, yay.
So are they roping off seats or anything like that?
Nope, no roping off seats. I don't think there's any really way that the theaters around us are trying to police the situation. I just don't think where we live is an area where most of the people just don't care, and it's a little unfortunate. But I'm vaccinated and I don't care. And I bought a popcorn and a drink because I wanted to enjoy the experience. It was my first time back in a theater. So I dished out the $40 to do
Nice.
this. And it didn't actually cost $40. It was like $20 for everything. But I got into the theater, and, you know, it was Memorial Day weekend. The opening weekend for this movie, I was like, man, it's probably going to be a little packed.
Right.
Nobody. Me and one other guy. Yeah. I walk in there. It's a small theater. There's one guy in there. He's maskless. He turns around. He's like, oh, shit. I thought I was going to be alone. And I was like, yeah, it's no worries, man. I'm going to sit over here on this side and we'll be fine. He's like, good, because I didn't want to wear a mask. And I was like, well, I got popcorn. I like held up my popcorn. I'm like, well, I got popcorn, so I don't fucking care, man. It was hilarious. It was like, it was a weird like Futurama kind of thing where it was like, this is the new future, is when you walk in a room, it's like, oh, I'm vaccinated. We're good, right? Like,
right, yeah, we're okay, right? Yeah.
This is society now.
Go get vaccinated. They're just handing them out. You know, you got 5 minutes. Go to the center, get it.
Amen, sister. But let me talk about A Quiet Place, because you didn't go see it. So this is kind of like harken back to our very first stay or go, where I went to see Tenet, and we both watched Mulan, and later we'll talk Cruella. Very odd parallel. I didn't realize that was going to be
2 Disney Plus premieres. That's pretty funny.
And that brings in the argument again. I bought a large popcorn, or not a large popcorn. I bought a small popcorn, small drink, and one movie ticket cost me $20.
Right.
And to stay at home on my couch and watch Cruella with my own snacks, cost me $30.
Yeah.
So that brings in the argument. Which does that change things? And so we'll get into that later on. But excuse me, amateur podcaster hour. So A Quiet Place, the first one. Highly recommend anybody to go see that in theaters.
I did watch it to prep, but honestly, I really did think I got so used to the movies coming to home. I really thought I was going to be able to stream this one somehow.
Sadly, John Krasinski, the director, and he starred in the first one. He wanted it to be, because it is a theater experience. You know, it's very much about the sound design, and not everybody, as he said, is going to have that surround sound stereo system that'll fully immerse them in the horror of this movie, because that's where the horror comes from, is that sound element.
Right.
And in the first one, it was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It was so good. Highly recommend seeing it in theaters because it is worthy of that experience.
I never managed to see it in theaters, and I do regret that. Because you can tell from watching it at home. Like, you get that. You get that at home. But if I had...
It's not the same.
If I had 30 speakers in the same room, it would be a whole totally different experience.
Right.
Because it's not just silence that they're playing with, because you got all that ambient noise that is in the shot and the scene, and a lot of that's dead upon the small screen. So I understand where he's coming from.
I mean, so my experience with it in the theaters with that first movie was, you know, normally, as I said, you have a noisy audience. It's, you know, people are always chewing, they're slurping, they're talking, their phones are whipping out. That first movie, everyone was silent, like dead silent, because nobody wanted to disturb it, because it's so much in quiet that everybody's just sitting there like, oh no, if I eat my popcorn, it's going to be real fucking annoying, isn't it? And so people, like, I swear, like, nobody was doing anything. We were all just glued to the screen watching this, and then during the action scenes when there was noise, that's when I heard the people like, oh, no, oh, shit. It's like, fucking seeing this is crazy.
Stress eating during the action scenes. It's hilarious.
It was great. It was brilliant directing, like, highly applaud John Krasinski. He just, phenomenal directorial debut. But what really made that first movie was him and Emily Blunt, his real-life wife's chemistry.
Yeah, they're
because, like, so good. And it is, I mean, being an actual couple, I think, really helps it. But, like, them and the kids, Millicent Simmons and Noah Jupe are the ones in A Quiet Place Part 2. I believe there's another one in the first one, but spoilers.
Spoilers.
But it's so wonderful. But the problem with the second movie, and why I'm not sure if I would overall recommend going to see it in theaters, is it's very familiar.
Sure.
It's much of the exact same. So that he doesn't. The problems with it is it's a great movie. I'm not going to deny that. It's a really good movie, really good horror film, and I really enjoyed it. And again, the noise design is pristine. Like, the introduction of the film is like this 5-minute opening scene. John Krasinski's in it, so if you haven't seen the first one, spoilers for 5 minutes. Obviously, that this is day one. The opening introduction is day one. It opens up on a stoplight, and the only sound you hear is that stoplight, like clunk, clunk. And it's really good. Like, it's really great design, because like with every sound you hear, you're just like, ooh, is a monster gonna come? Because they haven't told you that. I don't remember if they told you that it was day one at that point. So it's just like, oh fuck, here comes a monster. You hear a car driving up, and you're just like, ah. And then like day one comes up, and you're like, oh, whew, I can relax a little bit.
Yeah,
and like
maybe it hasn't quite happened yet.
And that intro's great because it sets up a lot of stuff that happens at the end. A lot of stuff like that comes full circle, and it's really good storytelling. Foreshadow it, Chekhov's gun kind of thing.
Well, that honestly, just with that alone, kind of piques my interest a little bit more into it, because you had told me. Because I was kind of letting you be the guinea pig of going back to the theater, because I think I might have mentioned on the show before, but my wife has an autoimmune disorder, and so we are extra cautious about the pandemic, and probably will be more cautious about our health in the future. But we wanted to know about the crowd, and you said there's hardly anybody there, and so we were like, oh, well, maybe we will go. But then you said that the movie was more of the same. And I said, well, we do know what that movie's all about. However, I haven't had that first experience. So from what you just said about the plot of the movie, that does pique my interest again. I am
and I do recommend it in the theaters.
Yeah. But
I do warn you that he doesn't take risks. It's very much just another story set in this universe. I mean, it follows the same characters, but it's just like it feels very episodic. It's kind of like a television show. You had the first season with the first movie. Here's second season, where it's like we're following a new story arc. It's another kind of like, now it's the kids' turn to overcome. Emily Blunt had her moment in the first movie. Now it's the kids' turn.
Well, I could see why that would be disappointing, because that first movie was so new. Like, not that many people play with the idea of silence in their films and actually pull it off. Like, that movie is very masterfully done.
Yeah, and he definitely pulls it off here, and they do a couple more things, like they add on to the science and all that kind of stuff behind it, cool. And you get peeks at society. The first movie we were just very located on one family. This movie you get to see other groups of survivors and how other people are doing. You have your like torturous, like crazies. The people who are like killing for fun, like those crazy people. And then you have this like little peaceful community off on an island kind of thing. So it's, there is good still in this world, and there's a lot of room for hope, and it is a good movie, but it's also fairly predictable. It's it's kind of, again, it's familiar, so they don't really do much. There's like a lot of characters make some questionable decisions that really just bothered me, but that it was obviously decisions made to set up a scare, or a very obvious scare. Like Millicent Simmons, the daughter, she's walking down a road, and she has the whole road to her. There's nobody else around her. She's walking down this road, and there's a railroad. I think it was a railroad, because there's a train car in front of her, and she comes up to the train car. Now, if you or I are like, if we're focused on getting to a goal, to a place, we're going to walk around the train car and just keep going. And that's all she's got to do is she wants to keep going to where she's off to.
Yeah.
So she walks through the train car. And it's very obvious setup for like, okay, something's going to happen in here. Like there's going to be like a dead body or some kind of jump scare. And
or like, she's going to make a noise because it's unfamiliar terrain.
Yeah. And she is also deaf. And so she doesn't know when these monsters are coming because she can't hear them.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know when she's made a noise. So it's like, there's a lot of great directorial setups for scares, but why the characters do that just makes no sense. It's like, why would you walk in here? And they give her a reason, like she's going to get like a med kit, but she never uses the med kit, and
that's annoying.
You presume, and she's carrying a backpack, so you like presume she already has all of like her med supplies that she would need on the journey that she thought she was going to have to make. Like it's weird. I didn't like it, but it doesn't hurt the movie because the scare is still good. The horror is still good. The story is still good. Emily Blunt, still an amazing actor. She does a great performance here, as do the kids. I really liked. They do a lot with Noah Jupe, the boy in this.
Okay, cool. He was a good character, I'd say, in the first movie, but he definitely wasn't overly focused on.
Yeah, and they really do. Yeah, they definitely focus on both kids again, heavily on this one because they tell a two-pronged story. Like the daughter goes off on an adventure and the boy is staying with Emily, and that story, like, you know, it follows both of them. And honestly, I really only cared for the daughter's story, but the son had a really good story too, and he did a great job in it. But the only reason I cared for the daughter's story more is because she's with Cillian Murphy, who I fucking love. Cillian Murphy. He's in Inception. He's in a lot of things. He's in the Peaky Blinders.
Right.
But like what I know him from is Inception and the Dark Knight trilogy,
right,
where he plays the Scarecrow.
He's an interesting actor for sure.
Oh yeah, I love him, and he is by far the best thing about this Quiet Place Part 2.
Cool.
Like, phenomenal job. Like, I really loved his character, what they did with him, his story, his background. Like, it's very good. But yeah, I recommend it just solely for Cillian Murphy, honestly. Yeah, that's A Quiet Place Part 2. It's a fun tag along, you know, it's a fun sequel. Like it's a great ad. You can watch both of them back to back. Like they're setting up a good kind of a marathon franchise. Yeah. So like he can just keep doing this. He can just keep doing these little episodic films. And the only thing I ask is that you just take risks, John Krasinski. Do something more.
You did like, something so outstanding. You can't just keep on doing the same thing.
Yeah, you gotta build it. You gotta do something else that floors us. I don't know what that is, but just do it.
I'll tell you, if I may,
Yeah.
I am reconsidering whether or not to actually go into the theater for it, because I did not have that, experience with the first one. I missed out, and I'm thinking on it. But I also think, for the same reason that I stated earlier, maybe I will just wait for being able to rent it. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see,
but I really do recommend it. I give it 3 stars. Very fun movie, if predictable at times, but yeah, that's A Quiet Place Part 2. So let's move on to the main event. Cruella Deville. Disney's continuing their fucking all we can do is live action remakes of our animation.
Yeah. So I have to say though, this is
with a twist.
At the very least, this has been. I'm not gonna say that it's like an original story by any means, but at the very least, they did something new with the character. Like they tried that with Maleficent, and that movie just wasn't well executed. I think the idea was good. Like they could. I
feel like I need to give it. I need to give it another chance. I think I was really harsh on
it. We ended up watching the sequel one night, and I was like, I think this movie's better than Maleficent. And that's like very rare and hard to do it itself. But this movie, I honestly like the twist that they kind of added on to it. It was so high drama, that it was comical, and that was exactly the point.
Right.
So I think. Oh, I guess I'm kind of giving the review before I give the synopsis. So I'll go ahead and jump into that. So, starring Emma Stone as Estella Cruella, and
Estella.
Like
walk.
Whose natural hair colors are black and white, split down the middle.
Nice. I love it.
So this is like the first 5 seconds of the film that you find that out. So I don't feel like that's really a spoiler.
Yeah. And also in that first 5 seconds, Emma Stone talks, you hear her voice in the background, she's narrating the film. And what she does with her voice, in those first 5 seconds when you hear her voice, I'm like, oh, that's fucking perfect. You're great.
I think she did it right. Yeah. And so her mother is very supportive, but also tries to knock down her ego because Estella has quite an ego, and they call the ego Cruella. And that's the cute story. She kind of just becomes that character later on. But anyhow, something happens to her mother. Then she ends up on the streets of London, and she meets young Horace and Jasper, who are two little street thieves. And they together become the three best thieves in London. And I think that idea is great.
Before we move on, who plays Horace and Jasper?
Oh, yes, thank you. I don't know about the young ones.
I know. I wrote down Joel Fry plays Jasper.
Yes, that is correct. And Paul Walter Hauser is Horace.
I really enjoyed them. They're a lot of fun.
They have good chemistry together too, and with Emma, they really do.
They're oddly the good cops for her. She's very much the bad cop, and they're just oh, come on, you can be nice here.
Her ego does get the better of her, and it's fantastic and very well. I don't know if foil is the correct term. Anyway, Emma Thompson does a great job as the Baroness.
Yes, Baroness von Hellman. Yeah, I love Emma
great.
Thompson in this too. Yeah. She, where Emma Stone is perfect as Cruella, Emma Thompson is perfect as the villain for Cruella.
Yes, it was amazing. I was so surprised at her performance. I mean, I feel like it's something she's done before too, though. At the same time, but it just fit the story so well, and just immediately you want to know more about the Baroness. But anyhow, how she fits into the story, Estella makes costumes for all of their heists, and Jasper, who's dotes on Estella, convinces her to try to go legit and work in the fashion industry, and that eventually leads to a job with the Baroness.
Right.
Eventually, Estella decides, which I'll leave for the audience member, that she is a rival for the Baroness, and that's where her alter ego, Cruella, really comes into play, and she's making all these big public events happen, and it's great. It's a party.
Yeah, they're upstage. She's upstaging the Baroness constantly, and it's so fun and maniacal.
Yes,
I love it.
And then eventually the story gets to a place that you find out that the Baroness is really willing to go pretty freaking far for little gains, even for herself. So Cruella decides that she can't just do this to upstage her. She needs to take down the Baroness, and that's pretty much the plot.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I wasn't expecting a lot of it because I avoided the trailers for this. This was one of those films that, even though I like Disney and I want them to pay us, that'd be amazing. But I'll chill out for Disney.
Where's my $4 million deal? Oh, $4 billion.
Yeah, Disney. I've already pitched so many TV show ideas. just pay one intern to like listen to this fucking podcast and then just shill some money our way. Like, come on, damn it.
We did so many of your movies.
But as excited as I am for Disney, as much as I do love their films, I'm not really terribly excited about their live action work.
No.
And especially their live action work centered around retelling their animations through the eyes of the villains. Because the only one I've seen that I can think of is Maleficent.
Yeah. And that one was a little disappointing. You were definitely way more disappointed in it than I was. But
I've never wanted to leave the theater before, and in that movie, I literally just like tugged on your sleeve, and I was like, Blake, can we go? And you were like, no, we paid like $40 for this. And I was like,
And I was invested enough. Like it was definitely a little. I don't know what to say it was at first, but at the end, it was pretty bad. But at first, I was like, okay, this isn't. It's a little kiddie. More kiddie than I thought they were going to go for because it's Maleficent. Right. She's the freaking mistress of evil.
Right.
Yeah, it's a complete... They take that same idea, but it's just executed so much better. It really, I think, works really well.
Yeah, it's a very, very fun film, and even though the script is so terribly goddamn predictable...
Yes.
Like, that's my biggest issue with this whole film is I predicted... literally everything that was going to happen. Even the dialogue, like I'm saying every word that they're saying before they say it. It needed another rewrite.
In fact, I said a couple of those things out loud when I was watching with my wife and my cousin, and my cousin was like, Blake, you need to stop saying things because they're coming true.
Right. I don't want to be mean to the writers are Dana Fox and Tony McNamara, and Tony McNamara wrote The Favorite, which starred Olivia Colman a couple years ago. I really liked it, and Emma Stone, I think.
I don't think I'm
not sure. That one. It was a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I might be thinking of the wrong film, but I think I'm right. I'll delete it otherwise. But they are good writers. It's just it didn't feel like this one was Disney polished enough. It seems like Disney had polished the story and the story beats and made it a very fun and enjoyable film. But that script, like as you said, there were so many moments where we filled in the lines before it fucking happened.
Right.
But other than that that was literally like the only big issue that I had with the film because I have a morally gray area issue with the film, which is. The one thing I didn't want them to do was make me feel sympathy for Cruella de Vil, right? Because the bitch kills dogs and puts them in the coats. Yeah, that's her character.
Yeah, or at least attempts to. Yeah,
and within the first 5 minutes of this film, they give you an emotional understanding for why she wants to kill Dalmatians specifically and put them in the coats.
Yes,
and I hate them for that. I hate them for making me feel
at the
sympathy.
Same time, it fucking worked. I didn't want that to happen either. I really was hoping that at the end of the movie, Emma Stone would be a villain.
There is a good justification for liking her, for feeling sympathetic for her, because in my opinion, this is a standalone film. They say they're making a sequel. We'll find out. But right now, this is a standalone film. And in my opinion, it doesn't lead into where the animation character happened. She doesn't do the same things. I can happily watch Cruella, the live action film that we just watched, and believe that she does not go on to kill Dalmatians and put them in the coats. Right. I can believe that and feel totally happy.
So there is something that happens in the movie that is kind of a joke / alluding to it happening. And I feel like this movie is like the true life story of this legend that Estella created. Yeah. And the 101 Dalmatians is like an urban folk tale that happens around her character. That's what I feel.
I heard this at somebody, I can't remember who, but and I feel bad because I don't want to take credit for it because it's totally not mine.
Sure.
I can't remember where I heard this from though, but somebody compared this to Disney's version of the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Right. Yeah. That movie was super non sequitur.
Exactly. They took this character and they told a completely different tale. It's not the original character. You feel sympathy for them.
Right.
You understand their issues, but they are still a villain.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Cruella. She still does things that are very villainous, and you're just like, oh, why are you like this sometimes?
Right.
But typically Jasper and Horace, I think it's Horace, right?
Yes, Horace. Yeah.
Yeah. Typically they bring her back down to a more anti-hero level, so it's nice.
Yes.
But
I would say she's an anti-hero. That's a very good label for this Cruella, because she has the ability to make big things happen. It's up to her whether or not they're selfish or giving.
Exactly.
I did want to say one thing.
Yes.
That did bother me about this movie is at the top of this movie, there was a shit ton of montages. There was like 3 or 4 montages in a row. And I was like, man, I think I'm going to start not liking this movie if they don't start showing me this story instead of telling me it. And some of the things that they skipped over were all the heists that they did as kids and then growing into adults. Like, it was just all done in montage. And I felt like you could show me a couple of short scenes, or even like one scene that bleeds into another scene of 2 heists that they did as kids and then adults that felt like, a whole lot of time transition that they've been doing this same thing.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly. I think I've stated on the podcast before, but I always love to state I hate montages. Yeah. I think there's a way to do them, and that way is Rocky. It's the Rocky montage. Yeah. If you do need to get from point A to point B, and what happens in the middle there is absolutely boring to watch, but can be made interesting in a really quick scene, like a montage, or like a workout scenario where Rocky's just running through the streets of Philadelphia. That's great. That's and they made it really pumping and entertaining, and it's fucking great.
And awesome song.
As much as I hate the montages because there are so many of them, I do think they were necessary in this movie, but I do also agree that they could have done it as in the middle of a heist. Like, you watch their first heist and you cut to them doing a heist in in adulthood, it'd be fine. That
would have been, it's been done before, but it would have worked. I think I would have been personally more entertained.
Right.
Because it was like 3 minutes of montage, I swear.
Yeah. And it was ridiculous.
It was very long.
It's like I was watching a Harry Potter movie again, flying through all that newspaper shit. But I think they're just walking a fine line though, where with the kids, where they probably shot scenes and thought this is more believable if we just put it in a montage, because maybe they weren't they were good child actors, but they weren't amazing child actors. It's
at first I really thought that young Horace was better than the adult Horace at first, because I thought I don't know Paul Walter Hauser really. I think he was in that movie about that guy who called in the bomb threat, but he was. You remember that?
Yeah, I kind of remember. I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either, but I can't tell if he's putting on an accent or not. I feel like you can tell that Emma Stone is putting on an accent, but it works so well for the character that I don't care.
And she's great.
But eventually, his accent really worked for Horace. I really fell in love with Horace by the end of this movie. I thought he was a great character. It's also it's really just my favorite depiction of these 3 characters' dynamic. Because Hugh Laurie is great.
That's.
But I just watched that movie the other night because I wanted, I guess, more Cruella. And Glenn Close is great. But they're just so vicious. They're not even that vicious. They're almost harmless in their incompetence. But there's at one point
Hugh
where
Laurie.
Hugh Laurie is great. I can't argue with you. Hugh Laurie, though, at one point he's like, okay, well, it's time to kill the puppies. And Arthur Weasley, that's all what I'm going to call him because I don't remember the actor's name. Arthur Weasley says, well, isn't that Mr. Skinner's job? And he's like, yeah, but why does he get to have all the fun? And then he picks up a blunt object. And then Arthur Weasley breaks the desk he's sitting at and takes the leg, and then they're gonna go bludgeon some puppies. And I'm like, what the fuck?
They're brutal, but it's beautiful. They're beautiful people. It's Hugh Laurie and Arthur Weasley. I don't remember his name either. I could search through my notes because I'm sure we've watched.
No, I think I'm just gonna call him Arthur Weasley. But
yeah, it's fine too. He was in Doctor Who, by the way. I remember that fact. Yes. Rory's dad. Oh, I love him.
But I just like that these three characters actually love each other. That's just really cool to me. And then they're also thieves, and they have fun doing it. I think it was a lot of fun.
Right, I do like the take. They are very fun. I don't know. I'm just very biased to Hugh Laurie because he's one of my favorite actors. So. But they do a great job. I do like Paul Walter Hauser.
And Joel Fry, yeah.
Yeah, I liked his emotion that he brought to the character because there's more.
Him doing some pretty big lead roles here in the future. He has some. Well, he's good looking. There's that.
Right. Right. There's another guy that I wanted to mention was Mark Strong. I really like Mark Strong's character in this.
Good in this too.
I don't remember his character's name, but he's he ends up becoming an ally for Cruella, and he's a lot of fun too. I love his.
He's billed as John the Valet.
Oh, fabulous! Yeah. And his dynamic. He's a very stoic, quiet.
Yes.
More quiet guy.
He's Mark Strong.
Yeah, exactly. And then putting that dynamic with the thieves was a lot of fun. He fit in so oddly, and it was great.
It was fun.
Well, I do think we're close to, or we're at closing statements. Honestly,
I do too.
Because there's not really. Again, they're both of these films that we watched, or that I watched one and we watched Cruella together. They're new releases. Mm-hmm. There's not too much we want to give away. I mean, I'm sure we've spoiled some things on accident. Sorry, people, but. A lot of it, I think both of these films are films I would recommend, and I don't want to disclose too much about them because, go out and watch them.
Yeah.
But I'll lead into my closing statement with Cruella. It's directed by Craig Gillespie, who directed one of my favorite horror films, which is Fright Night.
Wow.
It's the remake of Fright Night. It's the one with David Tennant. So that's really why it's one of my favorite horror films, is because I love David Tennant. And just crazy mad. And Craig Gillespie also directed I, Tonya with Margot Robbie.
Good. That was really good.
So yeah, I'm really happy with what he's doing. The montages were a little too much. There's a lot of this story that is, I don't really give a damn for a lot of this film. There's so much that I'm just kind of like, man, I just kind of zone out, and then I come back when it gets interesting again.
Right.
It's not very engaging. But when it is engaging, it's a riot. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. The acting's great.
I agree with that.
But again, predictable story. But it does have Glenn Close's seal of approval because she produced this.
Oh, really?
So that's nice. Yeah.
Glenn Close also just donated a whole repertoire of costumes from her career to the IU Art Museum. So
nice.
It's on exhibit now.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Yeah, so, if you're in the area, go check it out. But yeah, it's cool. I think that's pretty cool.
But I give it 2.5 stars. It is very good, but there's, it's so fucking predictable that I can't give it more than 2.5 stars, but I do highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. I give it a full face. I feel like if it had just a couple less montages and replaced those with scenes, and who knows? I mean, maybe they were like, okay, this movie's getting a little too long. We should cut these scenes, and to get from here to here, just do a quick montage. It's a production thing.
It is like 2 fucking hours, isn't it?
It is. And that last hour is awesome. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It was a lot of fun, but there's those montages in that first bit, it does drag it down and makes it less engaging, like you said. For that reason, I'm not going to give it a face and a half, even though I had a really good time watching this, and I 100% recommend it.
And so I guess that all that leaves is is it worth it to go see A Quiet Place in theaters? Because that's all you can, Quiet Place Part 2, that is. That's the only area you can see it. It's not streamable yet. Cruella's both in theaters and on Disney Plus. So, but you have to pay $30 to watch it.
You have to pay $30.
And I think it's only available for like a month, right? Like, isn't it gone after a month?
I believe everybody could stream it after a month. Well, at least that's how it was with Mulan.
Oh, that's how it is. Okay, gotcha. I thought maybe they would like leave it to the theaters.
Right.
That might be HBO. The HBO might only do it for a month.
Yeah, that's right.
But
that's right.
Right. But with Cruella specifically, I say buy it on the couch. Buy it on Disney Plus and sit on the couch and watch it. I don't think it's worth going to the theaters. There's nothing like super exciting, especially if there's going to be a lot of kids there. Like you don't want to sit through that. Like kids in theaters, you either have sleeping kids because the movie's so goddamn boring and put them to sleep, like Tom and Jerry maybe, but with Cruella, like I kind of imagine them being very wily and like running around, screaming a lot.
But also, if you have 101 kids, imagine how much money you're saving if you buy it for $30.
It's true. That's very true. Quiet Place Part 2. I mean, it's more of the same. If you haven't if you haven't seen the first one in theaters, go see this one because it is a good experience. It's very fun to get immersed in, and it is meant to be watched in the theaters. That's always something I like is what the director wants, and he made this to be watched in theaters, and he did a great job. I love John Krasinski as an actor. I've never honestly watched The Office. Sorry, people.
I've watched some of The Office. He's the better part of The Office. I'll say that.
Right, he's the better part of most of everything he's in because he's great.
Yeah,
and him as a horror director, I'm all in. There's a little too much reliance on like jump scare-ish kind of things, but he really sets up a good scare and he makes the jump scare worth it. He earns the jump scare. I would say, I guess, that I would recommend going to see A Quiet Place Part 2 over Cruella if you've been vaccinated. And if you want to return to the theater experience. But if you don't want to return to the theater experience, you can wait until Quiet Place Part 2 pops up on a streaming website or on DVD or whatever the fuck.
It's going to be on Paramount Plus June 12th. So if you have Paramount Plus, you can do that. But I think at that point, too, they probably will start renting it.
I'm not going to grab another stream or a stream site or whatever stream service.
Not right now. If we get more patrons on our Patreon. So if you want to check that out,
maybe.
At patreon.com/greenandfaceless. So you heard it here probably last. I don't know. We say it a lot. So is that our show?
I think so. My dog's going to be barking for the next 10 minutes. So
okay.
Hard close. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm really excited to be back to the theaters. It's always been one of my favorite things. As I said before the pandemic, I was going once a week, if not twice a week. Sometimes when there's a lot of summer blockbuster seasons coming up, so that's gonna be crazy for me. I'm really excited, and this was a good one to return to. I really enjoyed A Quiet Place Part 2, and also Cruella. Recommend them both.
Nice.
I've been the Green Traveler,
and I have been the Faceless Leon. Thank you, Couch Potatoes. Safe shadows. Safe shadows. And good fright. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of Fiction Works 19. If you like the show, please show your support by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might listen. We also now have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to support us in a financial manner, please become a patron by visiting patreon.com/greenandfaceless. You can also find more information about us on our Facebook account or on the FictionWorks 19 Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening.